Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Insurance Experts. It's my pleasure to have on the line Carol Roth. Carol is actually a TV celebrity. She's been on Fox Business, she's been on CNBC, she's been a reality TV show judge. But we met actually on LinkedIn because she's passionate about long-term care planning, as I am. So, Carol, thanks for joining us today.
Mark, it's such a pleasure to be with you.
So, tell us a little bit about your background and about Future File and how that came to being.
Sure. So as you mentioned, part of what I do, I always say that the short synopsis is that I'm a recovering investment banker, that I am an entrepreneur behind this Future File legacy planning system, and that I also play myself on television. So I tend to be in multiple places, but try to bring everything together. Future File really is my mission, because it came out of my own personal experience. I've lost a number of loved ones. I'm dealing with a long-term care situation. And my father, who passed away in 2013, created the Future File prototype. Basically, after we were dealing with all of this, passing my mom and my stepmom and the like, he felt like if something were to happen to him, whether he was mentally incapacitated or he had passed away, that my sister and I wouldn't know what to do. And he wanted to save us time and headache and money. And so he started giving us information to put into a file that we kind of poo-pooed. We were like, oh, okay, whatever, Dad. But 2013 rolls around, my dad's in a freak accident, and we pull out this kit and go to the hospital and have to deal with immediate medical situations. So pull out powers of attorney, pull out his medical history. We have to move his car because he happened to be in his car at the time. We had to get to his house to get some things. And ultimately, unfortunately, he didn't make it. And we had to do the things that people do and lay the body to rest and wrap up his personal affairs. And we found that by having this kit put together, that he saved us more than 10,000 tangible dollars, that he had the right insurance products in place so that we didn't come out of pocket for the money that we did spend, that he saved us hundreds of hours of time tracking things down, and ultimately kept my sister and I as allies instead of adversaries, which is really his legacy. So we wanted to pass this on to other people. And at the same time, my father-in-law was dealing with early onset dementia, and we had to move him from his house into a care facility. And we have to do things like review his financials every weekend because he was paying some bills twice and some not at all. And we wanted to make sure he wasn't getting scammed. So when we decided to create the full product, we wanted to make sure that it included everything from long-term care and dealing with somebody who was aging or was mentally incapacitated, to an emergency when your house burned down, to somebody who passed away. And we felt like all of those things were symbiotic and wanted to include that in our kits.
Wow. So your father's legacy was actually Future File itself, and you're carrying on that tradition.
Exactly.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about the people you work with. I know you work with advisors, you work also direct with consumers. Tell us a little bit more about the advisors that you work with. How do they use Future File?
Absolutely. So, we have found that people who are trusted advisors are great allies for us because they are involved in the same kinds of things. They are trying to protect their clients. They're trying to build loyalty. And because Future File opens up the conversation for so many additional products like long-term care insurance, for example, it's an easy way to start that discussion. So, for example, we've got a really great financial advisor who's in a very successful practice with a major investment banking firm, you know the name, and he was having some issues. He was having issues with retaining assets under management if a spouse were to pass away, or if there was a divorce, or if kids get older, not having those relationships with the kids. He was having trouble with how do I open up conversations on products like long-term care. And then, of course, it's a really competitive environment for all kinds of advisors. So how do I stand out to find new clients? And so Future File was sort of an obvious way for him to do that. And it probably is helpful if I just show you our kit version real quickly. You have a copy as well. So basically we get this lovely filing folder, if you can see that.
I got one here too.
And everybody's got their Future File, and we've got 2 workbooks. basically an instructions manual and another workbook that really helps people create this kit that has all of their information. We also have a software version, but we find that most advisors, including this particular financial advisor, likes the kit because it's easier to have a meeting and to sit down with an existing client to do a review and say, here is a tool that I think is important, that we're addressing certain pieces of the plan, but there are a lot of things that haven't been addressed. And I want to make sure that whether it's you, your spouse, your kids, that you all have this information, and he can actually page through, highlight certain pieces of that. And then as they fill out the information, it opens up those discussions for things like long-term care insurance and end-of-life insurance, right, and a whole host of other products. And but most importantly, it really creates that extra loyalty. And the kit's very nice for advisors because they can customize it and they can put their own literature in there. If they sell a long-term care insurance policy, the customer can actually put that into the kit and have it all in one grabbable location.
Yeah, and I think that's really the critical piece to this is sometimes, as agents or advisors, we think about our solutions because we're so well trained on how do we solve the problems. Yeah. We don't think about, let's make sure we walk it through the problem, the planning process step by step before we even address what the solution is. I always say everyone needs a long-term care plan. It doesn't necessarily involve insurance for everybody, but it involves the planning process where you're going through step by step what people's wishes are. And that's what Future File can do, is help walk you through it step by step, which will then lead you to the solutions at the end of the day.
100%. And it also makes sure that your clients have answers to questions so they don't, so you don't feel left out in the cold if they contact you with a piece of information that you don't know. You never want to say to your client, I don't have that piece of information. We had a different advisor whose the client's spouse called up, said the client passed away. Who's my estate planning attorney? And he had to say, I don't know. And he felt terrible that in a time of need that he couldn't provide that piece of information. So now he uses Future File. So even if that information isn't sitting with him, he can say, well, remember that product that I gave you, Future File, it's in there. We made sure that in a situation like this, you were prepared. And that creates, unbelievable loyalty, helps to preserve things like assets under management from this conduit of additional loyalty and stickiness.
Yeah, and the other thing I liked about it is like how you create this community vibe. And you told me about some events that some advisors had hosted where people start sharing, what their wishes are and their experiences are with that. Could you tell us a little bit more about those events that you've been at?
Yes. So, the one advisor I talked to you about is hosting events like Women in Wealth, where they're using Future File as a way to say, hey, come learn how to organize the important documents and information you need for your aging loved one, or for yourself, or for a spouse, or for long-term planning, whatever the conduit is. And then we've even done events in areas like churches before. Same basic messaging: come get your information and your legacy and your wishes organized. And as we're sitting in these events, and as I've heard from advisors when I'm not there, people will share the things that have happened to them, whether it's arguing with a family member over something not of value. The phrase that always comes up is grandma's blue bowl, right? Something that's like worth $4, but that everybody seems to want in this time of need, to really big issues, things like in a long-term care situation, who's in charge, who's going to do what, where does the financial burden fall, to things like if somebody passes away, burial or cremation, and who gets to be in the plot next to mom or dad. So this is the legacy. I mean, the financial part's important, but also keeping your family together and keeping them allies after something happens, whether it's dealing with an aging or long-term care situation, or passing, that's the legacy you want. You want your family to not be at each other's throats, and this is something that helps them to do that.
Well, I really appreciate you being on the Insurance Experts. I mean, just what you're doing is invaluable, this planning process. So keep fighting the good fight. We'll keep raising awareness about this planning process, and we hope to have you join us on a future episode as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the light that you're shining on us, and keep doing the great work as well, Mark.
All right, take care.